Hi, Phanessa here. In this video, I am going to demonstrate how to knit this 10 by 10 square here. It is the knit wrap mock stitch. So this is a project sponsored by Lion Brand. It is the traveling afghans. There are two traveling afghans, one in knit and one in crochet. So 24 designers will be contributing a 10 by 10 square for each of the blankets. So there's 48 designers. The blanket is traveling from all over the world and it's going from one designer to the next. So we're using Lion Brand's Wool Ease worsted weight yarn. This is the color Fisherman. I've blocked my square and I'm just waiting for the afghan to arrive. And then I'll go ahead and stitch this on and then send it on its way to the next designer. Okay, so if you're just tuning in and would like to learn a new stitch, go ahead and grab some yarn. And I'm using a US 8 5mm needle. I'm using a 10-inch straight needle. So I've got some stitch markers here, tape measure, and a pair of scissors. I did use markers just to sort of mark my square as I'm working it so that I can keep track of where I'm at. So my gauge for 4 inches is 24 stitches and 24 rows. Now each of these little wrap stitches here, that's a repeat. So there are 4 rows in the repeat, and then going across the stitches there are also 4 stitches in every repeat. So I have 13 full sets, and then I finished off with 2 more rows, and then I bind it off on top here. So with my very first row and my last 2 rows plus the 13 sets, that's 55 rows total. Okay, so if you've been following along with your kit and you're ready for the next square, let's go ahead and get started. So I'm going to work a long tail cast on. Okay, so we're going to cast on 63 stitches. If you're adjusting with your own gauge, then go ahead and cast on in multiples of 4 plus 3. Okay, so for row 1, this is going to be the wrong side of your work. So for every row, we are going to slip the first stitch and purl the last stitch. That's going to be the side stitches that we're going to work for every row, the wrong or right side. So when you're slipping your stitches, make sure you slip with your yarn in the back. So you're going to slip purlwise, inserting your needle from the right to left, making sure your yarn is in the back. Okay, so the repeat is going to be knit 1, purl 3. Knit 1, purl 3. So you're going to repeat knit 1, purl 3 all the way to the end until your last 2 stitches So here I have my last 2 stitches. I'm going to knit 1, and then again the last stitch of every row is going to be purl. So purl your last stitch. Turn your work. Okay, so now we're ready for row 2. This is going to be your right side of the work. We're going to slip our first stitch as if to purl with the yarn in the back. Now the repeat is going to be purl 1, slip 1, knit 2, and then pass the slip stitch over the 2 knitted stitches. So purl 1, slip as if to purl with the yarn in the back. Then we're going to knit 2, 1, 2. Now we're going to grab that slip stitch and pass it over the 2 knitted stitches. Okay, so we're going to repeat purl 1, slip 1, knit 2, and then pass the slip stitch over the 2 knitted stitches. Okay, purl 1, slip 1, knit 2, 1, 2, pass the slip stitch over the 2 knitted stitches. Okay, so I'm going to go ahead and repeat that all the way to the end until the last 2 stitches. Okay, so I'm at the last 2 stitches. I'm just going to purl each of the last 2 stitches. Row 3, we're going to slip the first stitch as if to purl with the yarn in back. So the repeat is going to be knit 1, and then in the next 2 stitches, these are the stitches where you dropped a stitch on the other side. So to make up for that, we're going to purl 1, yarn over, and then purl 1. So then repeat knit 1, purl 1, yarn over, and purl 1. Repeat that until the last 2 stitches. Okay, we are at the last 2 stitches. We're going to knit 1 and then always purl the last stitch. Row 4, slip the first stitch. We're going to repeat purl 1, knit 3, all the way across until the last 2 stitches, and then we'll end with purl 2. Okay, so that is pretty much your repeat. Now we're going to repeat rows 1 through 4, and you're going to repeat that 12 times so that you have 13 repeats. And then you want to repeat rows 1 and 2 again. So you're ending after row 3. And then we will go ahead and bind off after that. Okay, so we're ready to cast off. These stitch markers I just use to help me keep track of how many repeats I have. So basically when I say repeats, I'm referring to each of these wrap stitches. Each repeat is one of these sections here. So I've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, and 12. And then this is the 13th, and then I went ahead and did the wrap stitch and worked the wrong side. So you're ending after row 3. So now I'm ready to cast off. I'm going to slip the first stitch. I'm going to knit the second stitch, and then I'm going to pass the first stitch over the second stitch. I'm going to knit the next stitch, and then I'm going to repeat passing the first stitch over the just knitted stitch. Knit the next stitch, pass the first stitch over, and then just continue repeating that all the way across until you have 1 stitch left. Okay, I'm going to cut my yarn, and then I'm just going to put the tail in the loop and pull it through, and then I'm going to block this to size. This is what the back looks like, and that's what the front looks like. Okay, so I have a blocking mat here. What I did was measure out 10 by 10 inch on the other side, just so you can see what I'm doing here. I'm just going to pin it around, and then I'm going to spray it with some water. I'm going to start with the corners first. And then I'm going to pin the sides here. So you can block however you want. I'm just going to spray some water on this. So I'm just going to spray my square and then let it air dry. Now that it's getting hotter, I just place this by my window, and now it's completely dry. Okay, so I'm going to leave my tail and just attach this to the blanket once I receive it. Okay, thank you so much for watching. I hope you've enjoyed this video. Don't forget to subscribe for future videos. I'll see you next time.